Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hope the microphone is not too loud. Definitely doesn't look like it's squealing like it was before. Adam here.
It's Brady.
We're here to talk about wrapping up the Lasting Tales Kickstarter. Whew. It's going really well. We can't thank you guys enough for backing. It's very, very exciting to be able to knock out all the stretch goals before the last couple days. I mean, you guys, I think we hit the final one on, was it Friday? Thursday or Friday? I don't even remember, but whew.
It's impressive.
Yeah. So thank you so much for those of you who backed.
Or shared or...
Yeah, or shared it with your friends. Those of you who haven't backed, if you have questions about it, we'll try to address them here within the next 50 minutes before it ends. If you have questions for us about the game, about the miniatures, we'll answer as much as we can. But we'll try to prioritize pressing questions that might have to do with the Kickstarter itself. And we'll kind of go over what the next steps are after the Kickstarter ends, and maybe tease a little what's coming next from Blacklist Games, also. So,
You want to show off this stuff while...
yeah, we also, I'm not sure if anybody
updates.
here is a backer of Hour of Need. But we have some cool stuff coming from Hour of Need as the factory is wrapping up production of the game. We got in some early back tray samples that we've been kind of improving, but you want to hold up that neoprene mat. I'm not sure if anybody added this add-on, but it looks
pretty handy.
Pretty dang good.
Yeah.
And it's
good
really,
visual cues because in the game, anyone is familiar with the rules, you'll have your kind of your tableau, your play area of cards that you'll have in play, your hero deck. This is cool though because anytime you draw a threat in the game, it'll have a little skull icon. So you have like little skull icons here, just reminders, and you have all the token pools and everything. So it's really handy to keep your play area organized, and it's actually pretty compact. So if you could have 4 at the table pretty easily.
Yeah, somebody asked, what about Fantasy Series 3? Well, since this one did so well, you can bet we're already thinking about the future. But again, our priority is to finish fulfilling Fantasy Series 1, and then obviously get this one done and get out the door. We want to get Lasting Tales in people's hands and see how people like the game, because it is also going to inform our plans for the future. We have so many ideas for how to expand the game, and we're very excited about it. So,
You want to do another hour?
Yeah, we can
real quick because
we're just going to touch on a few of these things. We're going to do an Hour of Need live stream when we get all the final stuff. But we have some of the boards, which also turned out really nice. We got these.
One of the things we kind of revisited during production, I think we mentioned on the stream, was the production of the boards was based on how we did the Street Masters boards, which were good boards, but they weren't folded. So these being folded, we kind of looked at the finals of with the edges, and they were secure and everything. But with most boards, you have that wrap finish, and that's what we did here. Not only that though, like it's actually carries over the graphics, so it's not just like a black tape wrap or something like that with the art pasted over it. This is actually kind of a wraparound, so they came out looking. It might be hard to see from this distance, but they came out looking super nice, really smooth. We're very satisfied with these boards. So these are the final ones.
I mean, if anybody who has Ultra Quest, they'll see that's a wrapped board, so it has that kind of wrapped edge. Previously, the first sample we got was kind of like the Street Masters boards, which is just basically like a map tile with open like cardboard on the edges. This is much nicer, much more premium looking, so very exciting.
So somebody asked, there's actually, I should say here, Fantasy Series 3, and you touched on that. That's, in the, pipes, hypothetically, we haven't done any firm planning yet, so we can't say for sure what's going to be in that. We have mentioned before that we'd like to tailor those miniature lines to the content we're doing with Lasting Tales, like what part of the world we're exploring, and make them more kind of regionalized to that area to kind of just help build the world out and give people some more thematic components they can use for both Lasting Tales and any other games they have planned. And then that kind of goes to the other question somebody asked here next, was how similar to how Pathfinder and D&D allow for third-party content, is Blacklist open to third-party content for Lasting Tales? That's something more where it'd be geared toward fan content, like we'd have community content, because Pathfinder actually is its own thing. Do they do much third party stuff? I know.
Well, I mean, that's how they started.
Well, I know, but I mean, like you see a lot of content coming out, supplements that are 5th edition compatible.
Yeah,
I don't see that for Pathfinder so much.
Yeah, I know D&D has the open thing where people can officially release and sell things in the system. We probably won't do stuff where people can sell things in the Lasting Tales system, but for sure we would definitely support fan content.
Yeah, and we would love. I mean, I can't say this for certain, but I would love to have something where people could submit their campaigns for possible publication. We could review it and make it part of the world, and we could just commission people that way. So fan content would be a great way to get involved with just growing the brand of Lasting Tales.
As far as doing our own terrain, I'm not sure that would be anything we would be looking at in the near future. We do like to do like scenery pieces, like for Altar Quest. We're into that kind of stuff because that's along the miniatures line. But when it comes to big terrain pieces, that's something we haven't really explored yet ourselves as a company.
Yeah, I feel like the extent of what we would do we would kind of have more of starter kit type things, where if we did like a Lasting Tales starter set in the future, it might have like punch board terrain you can kind of assemble to just be as to have some aesthetics there, but to kind of get you into the hobby to see the wider world of terrain out there, because there's so many companies focused solely on that do it so well. We would hate to offer something that's kind of just mediocre in comparison to the other stuff when we could just partner up with companies that already do that.
So I see a couple questions about the art pack. So one thing we offered in the Fantasy Series 1 Kickstarter was all the stretch goal art was just concept art we had done for the miniatures for the Kickstarter. For this Lasting Tales Kickstarter, all the stretch goal art you'll see has been colored, and because it was commissioned to use in Lasting Tales products, so it's not just like concept art that we did just for the Kickstarter. So that stuff will be used in books and other Lasting Tales products as we can use it. So that's why we don't have an art pack for Fantasy Series 2, because it was commissioned for a reason, not just for the Kickstarter. That's why. There's going to be a lot of it in the Lasting Tales core book.
Someone asked, can I pledge $1 today and buy everything in the Pledge Manager? There are prices difference, right?
Yes, there's Kickstarter exclusive pricing, so you have to pledge for an actual tier during the Kickstarter to get the exclusive pricing. Everything will be available to late pledgers, but the prices of certain things might be different based on how much stretch goals are unlocked and all that stuff. So the exclusive pricing for the Kickstarter is just during the campaign for actual pledge levels.
And someone here, will you be releasing more adventures that don't require a DM for running them? Just to be clear, none of the content for Lasting Tales will require a DM. That's the main goal of the game. But
that being said, we might do Lasting Tales content that could use a DM.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Is having supplements that add that potential for people who like that style of game. But Lasting Tales is purely meant from the ground up to be just a solo cooperative game. But yes, we will be doing more adventures. We want to keep the line going as much as people want to support it. So that's pretty much our vision for it, is we want to keep doing it if possible.
Yeah, I saw people commenting that Pathfinder apparently does do third party stuff. It's just not as
I haven't seen it. Yeah,
I think I might have seen one source book that was on Kickstarter.
I think I saw Starfinder once, but not anything else. Will you put metric measurements in the rule book? That's not super common. I'm
probably not. It's the movements will all be in inches in the.
Yeah, just keep it simple. I mean,
it's pretty common for war games. So.
Yeah. Will the book contain sufficient lore content to be able to build your own campaigns? So yeah, we want to offer enough in the book. Enough background setting so you get a feel for the world, because the world is intentionally high fantasy. I hate using the term generic fantasy, because to me that's it's kind of used as a negative spin sometimes people use to describe fantasy that doesn't have a direction, but in my opinion it's more just traditional fantasy with your D&D tropes and everything, but it does have some it's going to have some flavor in there, so you'll get a feel for the world, but also building your own campaigns, that's something you can add. We don't want to I kind of hate to over prepare players with tons of background lore. Set the stage, but you can help build the world too by doing your own content in there. We just want to kind of give you enough to work with.
So before we get too caught up in questions, I'm sure they'll accumulate here, but I wanted to kind of give people a little overview about what happens when the Kickstarter ends, and just get this out of the way before we get closer to the actual end of the Kickstarter. Some important things that will happen after the Kickstarter ends is we won't be using the Kickstarter inbox when outside of a normal campaign. So any way to get, if you ever need to get a hold of us for, issues, address changes, all that stuff, you can submit a ticket on our help desk, which is on the Blacklist Games LLC.com website. Very bottom, there's a help button. You can submit a ticket to our customer service portal, and that's how we communicate with our customers outside of Kickstarters. After the Kickstarter ends, Kickstarter will collect funds. If you have any issues with your credit card, Kickstarter will try for, I think, about 2 weeks. If they can't process the payment, then the pledge won't be valid and you'll have to late pledge. So make sure you watch out for that if you have any issues running your credit card. We'll have the pledge manager open for at least 2 months after the Kickstarter ends. A refund window, this is all in the terms and conditions on the Kickstarter page, but the refund window will be for 14 days. There'll be minus a 10% Kickstarter fee during the first month of the Kickstarter, and then after that refund window will be closed. So that's 1 month after the pledge manager launches. Yes, you must complete your pledge manager by the deadline that was set in the update that we send out. We will send out an update when it launches. If you don't complete your pledge manager, which we have a lot of backers that have had that problem with our previous Kickstarters, if you don't submit your pledge manager and confirm it and pay for shipping, then there's no guarantee when you will get your pledge. It'll be after fulfillment is done. We'll have to take care of any remaining backers who did not complete their pledge manager. So completing the pledge manager is priority. I think those are the business things that can get out of the way, but I just wanted to make sure people understood that those important points for when the Kickstarter ends, because if you want to get a hold of us, Kickstarter's not the best place. Help desk is the best place. So.
But dive back into the questions
Yeah,
here?
you can dive back into the questions. I just want to get some of that stuff out of the way, so it's the boring stuff.
There's a question here: will the legendary tier include the full color digital art pack from Series 1? Remind me of the legendary tier.
So what was the question?
Will the legendary tier include the full color digital art pack from Series 1?
I'm pretty sure anybody can get access to that in the Kickstarter updates for Fantasy Series 1. Scotty, I'm not sure if we have a link to that on our website or not, but I will look into that. I'm pretty sure we can get that. Anybody who does back it will have access to the art pack, I believe. So if I'll also watch the chat and see if Scotty chimes in on that one.
And then we have try making minis tailored to Lasting Tales is great. Try to keep the appeal for a broader audience. Yeah, that's what I meant by saying we do want to. It's going to be a balance between building out the world and offering a unique aesthetic that's still going to fit into.
Yeah, I mean the whole inspiration for Lasting Tales was inspired by things like D&D classic fantasy. So yeah, that's where it takes its inspiration from. So it's definitely going to follow along that kind of
and it's
aesthetic. So
it's not a super the setting is not self-aware of itself, but it is meant to lean into it's like embracing the tropes, not in like a joking or mocking or parody way, but just more leaning into what the miniature line was for originally. The game's trying to reflect that.
There's a question about Lasting Tales having rules about making your own scenarios. So the cool thing about Lasting Tales is the core book will have rules for adventures, and so when there's a chart where you can roll random scenarios. There's tons of scenarios in the book, and when you do a random scenario, you can pick your own adversary force based on levels of your heroes, and then you total up the levels of the adversaries, and there's rules about how to do that. So you basically are making your own scenarios, but if you want to actually design objectives and scenarios, you can pretty much look at the ones in the book and use as inspiration, and then really the sky's the limit for the way you design adventures in the game. So
yeah,
the map is there for you with how to build out adversaries and things like that, but you can do whatever story, whatever objectives you want for your story. So.
Yeah, they were intentionally included kind of archetypal adventures that you can customize as needed to fit whatever story you want. We experimented with more mechanical structured scenario building, but honestly that's much more work on both ends. It's more work to design that, and it's more work to kind of feed into that from the player side. It's much more organic to just have it where here's an adventure, you can customize this how you want, or you can get a feel for how this works and design your own kind of based off of that. So it is meant to kind of inspire you that way.
I see.
Do you have any ideas for more horror items? We probably will incorporate more horror.
Yeah, I think if we do more horror, it's going to be in Lasting Tales, like horror, fantasy, things
More
like
traditional,
that.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Blacklist is going to be doing another line of horror miniatures,
Like genre stuff.
Yeah, so we might do horror game stuff, like in the future, but I don't know if we'll do another horror miniatures line, just because we gauge things by popularity, and if it doesn't do well, then we got to do something that does well.
Yeah, there is a section, there is a region in Aetha, the world of Lasting Tales, called Kame, and that's much more like a Castlevania, like horror Ravenloft style, vampires and everything. So like you could easily have a whole series based on that setting alone. So
that kind of crosses into the other question about different realms, and like in Lasting Tales, we can have all kinds of subgenres of fantasy in the world. It's pretty much just like a fantasy playground.
Yeah, like we teased in the update with the races. Elves are from this jungle region called Lostriel, and it's more like these ancient temples and everything. That's a whole different exotic location we could explore and have really cool jungle themed stuff. So we're trying to have pretty broad strokes with how the world's built out.
If I choose the Lasting Tales tier, I'd still get a chance to upgrade for the same price. Yes, if you pledge for the Lasting Tales tier during the Kickstarter, you can upgrade your pledge in the Pledge Manager for the same price. Anybody who backs a pledge level or a pledge tier during the Kickstarter will be locked into the Kickstarter exclusive pricing.
There will not be an option to have minis painted.
No, we do not offer pre-painting.
Pre-paints.
There's a whole other thing.
There's a lot of services that do that reasonably priced, like third parties.
Den of Imagination is who we use to paint the miniatures. They have all kinds of levels. So people who aren't looking to spend a fortune, they do have lower prices for lower tiers of paint
like lower detail, like lower levels of detail,
and will be some kind of how can we buy Lasting Tales terrain from Europe without paying $80 for shipping? That's totally a question for Blackside Studios. We partnered with them for them to produce a line of terrain to use in our game, but we have nothing to do with the selling of that terrain. That's all them. There are lots of other options for terrain. That was just one that we worked with to design things for the game. But if it's cost prohibitive for you to order from them, there are lots of other places that do sell MDF terrain that you can also look into, or you can reach out to Blackside Studios and see if they have any solutions for you. But yeah, contacting them would be
and we'll be continuing to explore more like kind of global options when it comes to just possible partnerships or whatever, because we want to make sure people have access to stuff that we think is cool that we would use in our game. We would like to share that with everybody else too.
I guess made you buy 2 Fantasy Series 1 HS1 and 2 FS2. That's a lot of miniatures. Good luck painting. Thank you for your support, though. Appreciate it.
Will there be a Fantasy Series 3? We hinted at that. Ideally, yes, with how these do.
I would say it's likely that Fantasy Series will continue going until people don't want it anymore.
So we figure out, well, there's not as much demand as we thought.
Because also that's going to go into what we're going to do with Lasting Tales, is we want to continue supporting that game. And anytime we do more Lasting Tales content, we'll want to do more miniatures toward as well. So
yeah, someone else mentioned here too. I think they mentioned it earlier, and I might have missed it. Sorry to repeat, but take a look at Battle Systems Fantasy Wargame Terrain as an alternative. Should be able to get it in the EU directly. I've heard some good things about that too. So
yeah, I use their sci-fi stuff with Core Space. They have, it's like punchboard terrain. It's very cost efficient. So.
Will there be a next Lasting Tales 3rd edition? If yes, when? So we would like to do supplements for Lasting Tales. So we would like to get the core book out there, see how well it does. Ideally, we do just campaign supplements. So here's a new campaign, details a new region of the world, lets you explore that area, offer miniatures that kind of populate that area. That's kind of our high-level vision of how that would work. It's a matter of getting this book done, getting it out there, see how people respond to it, and see what the demand is, what kind of content is desired. So just stay engaged when you get it and let us know what you're thinking and everything, and we'll base it on that.
Still haven't heard a clear answer as to whether Blacklist is okay with people using art for homebrewing or expanding the use of miniatures. So
I don't know if they mean if you're not.
I mean, if you're using it for home use, yeah, it's
The main
not a
limitations for like if you're trying to resell it, if you're repackaging or something, that's the problem because the artist would need paid for that. But yeah, I mean, if you're any sort of just
if you have the digital art
fan
pack
content.
and you want to make up some lurker cards or something for Alter Quest and you decide to upload them to Board Game Geek, that's fine. I mean, that's not a problem. You're not selling them, so we don't have a problem with that. That the digital art pack is basically given to backers for that purpose, really. So,
Can an adventure completely modify an adversary, like add a keyword, certain abilities? I tried making an adventure, and this became a challenge. I ended up making my own adversary stats.
absolutely. I mean, adventures could even take, like, for example, a goblin and make it a named character goblin and have a whole different stat line. So adventures can do anything.
Yeah, and a lot of it come down to trial and error. Like you might just on a whim decide, if you're playing through a campaign, you get to a place where you think you're going to design your own little encounter and have a certain villain you want to encounter, just pull from the story of what that villain might do. And it might be unwieldy and unbalanced, but that's kind of the fun. You can kind of see if you overcome it or if they get the best of you, and you can adjust it in game if you want. The whole point of the game is just to really just keep your imagination going, keep having fun with miniatures. So try not to look at it as too much of a hard and fast thing. It's a lot of it, there's rules, there's parameters and everything, but the stories are yours to tell.
The terrain or Black Site Studio going to continue adding to it. We're still discussing that with them, but we definitely want to do more as the game develops, and we work with them, give you new concepts. As long as it sells well for them, I believe they would be open to that. So we're definitely interested in expanding that line of the initial offering that they have put up there. So definitely in the works.
Yeah, we would like to actually have them do, if we introduce a new region in the world that's pretty aesthetically unique, we'd like to help work with them and have them help us create the architecture there, and just it'll add more theme to the world, but also have something unique to offer to people who already have fantasy terrain.
It just has to make business sense for them, is all. As long as they can sell it, I'm sure they'll be open to it.
How would a dungeon scenario play out in Lasting Tales?
So this is actually a good question, because I mean it's not drastically different than any other scenario, because it's played on a 3x3 board, mat, however you want to play it, with different kinds of terrain. The scenarios don't specifically tell you this is how much terrain you have to put on the board. It gives you a guideline saying use what you have available, but here are some important elements. You want to have like an objective here, or you want to make sure you block this area off. Like
you have a locked room here, or you have to get a key for or something. So.
And then the dungeon environment has like special rules for like different kinds of traps that can happen, darkness maybe, that basically affects that adventure. So it's not like you don't have to learn a whole new way to play the game. It's just little elements that change it up a little bit.
Yeah. With that being said, though, the system is very unique, very open. Where you could just have you're wandering through a dungeon narratively. You're rolling through exploration tables or something, and then you encounter like this big fight in this big chamber, and you play that out, and that'll determine how the rest of your little dungeon crawl goes. Or you would just have a smaller architectural area where you go into a crypt, and that's the dungeon right there. You just go in there. So you can do a lot of different things. You can simulate a dungeon crawl, through tables and exploration charts and everything like that, and then just play out the actual combat encounters. The beauty of the system is like anything you do in an RPG, we can simulate in this setting. It would be either through tables, narrative, or actual tactical gameplay.
If you back the legendary tier, will Fantasy Series 1 ship first, or will it all ship together? Everything in this Kickstarter will ship together, so there's not going to be any split shipping to worry about. It's all going to come in one package, one box.
Will there be? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I think you might have missed a few up here, up top here.
Any idea how tall the Ancient Dweller will be? That's going to depend on the final sculpt. It's going to be on a 75mm base, like all other huge miniatures. And you can kind of look at the images we shared of the giant and the dragon to get an idea of what huge means. But it's going to fill that base up, so it's gonna be big.
Someone asked, will there be any other lines post-apocalyptic series 1 that go with Lasting Tales? So Lasting Tales is a system that we would love to do other games for. I mean,
yes, we've even talked to Mark about like all kinds of different ideas. Yeah. But if people like Lasting Tales as it is going to be a fantasy game, but the system we can do anything with if it's popular. So I mean, hopefully when it gets out there, people play it, like it, give us feedback, let us know what they think of it, and we'll know where to take it from there. But we definitely have ideas.
A good way to look at it is like you have Pathfinders and a fantasy RPG, but then you have Starfinder, which is like a sci-fi RPG inspired by those same rule sets, but adds a lot of different stuff to it. We would do similar things if we were to go down that route. But I personally would love to do like a survival horror style Lasting Tales game, because I have tons. I mean, personally, I have tons of modern terrain I'd love to use. I have a lot of zombie terrain.
When is Ultra Quest 2 or 1.5 with more expansions? Do you want more expansions already? You guys already played through all that Ultra Quest? Didn't that just come out? We've been asked this before. We haven't anything official to announce yet, but we definitely want to continue supporting our games. So as long as people want more Ultra Quest, we are definitely listening. And we're hesitant to do too much fantasy back to back because we have so many cool other games we want to do. But it's definitely on the list. So.
Lasting Tales seems to have some similarities to Frostgrave, whilst adding lots of new features. Was this an inspiration when making the game? I think we talked about it a lot during our Frostgrave games.
Definitely, it's a game that I've always wanted to make. But Frostgrave was definitely a hint at, like, this could be popular. People like this kind of game. The whole miniature agnostic thing was definitely something I picked up from Frostgrave. How easy it is to just buy a book and play with all the miniatures I already had. That's cool to me. But obviously providing some kind of miniatures line for those who want it is great too. So I definitely enjoy Frostgrave, and I would say, yeah, sure, it's one of the several inspirations that led to Lasting Tales, the concept wise. I'm not going to tell you that Mark used it as inspiration for his design, but the concept was definitely inspired.
Scotty just announced about 7 minutes ago. It's the final 30 minutes. So we have 23 minutes left of the campaign right now. So
I'm not sure if it's changed much since I looked at it, but
it's got I think $5,000 difference, maybe $6,000.
Yeah,
I always lose track of numbers.
Hard to keep up.
Let's see. Is there a blacklist or
a second. Will Fantasy 2 be delayed if the book isn't finished before they are done? No, we're going to take as much time as needed on the book. And I mean, it's all going to ship together. So regardless of which one's done first,
I will say the book's going to be done before the miniatures. Like knowing what we know about miniatures assembly and everything, I'm pretty sure the book's going to be.
Yeah, but we're basically going to work up until the point where the factory's like, okay, we're done with the miniatures. Now we can print the book. We want to make sure we spend as much time as possible on the book. So we're not going to delay anything. We're just going to,
Yeah, Mark's been busy on this book for a while, so it's got a good head start. Could Lasting Tales be adapted for? Oh wait, no. Is there a Blacklist or Lasting Tales Discord server? I not right now. I don't use Discord. I think
someone might have started one, but I'm not like that familiar with Discord yet. I kind of dabbled in it, but I'm not the most savvy with it yet. But I'll look into it.
I'm having trouble joining like servers on Discord. I've only joined like 2. Like I don't really use it that often, but
I think skip this one. Even though it'll probably be a logistical nightmare, like smaller thematic packs as add-ons. The reason why that's difficult is because one of the big selling points of the miniatures line, I feel like, is the value, how many you get for the price. If we start breaking up into smaller things, it's the price is going to go way up. So when you're looking at like a little pack of 20 miniatures costing you $30, that's like half a price of the of a box of 200 miniatures.
Yeah, you got bulk is definitely the beneficial aspect of this right now, is just having
I think that's what we have going for us. I mean, there's lots of miniatures out there available for people to buy. So I think one of the things we have going for us is the value of quantity. So
could Lasting Tales be adapted for a grid system?
Easily.
Very easily. And most people will do that with. I mean, we mentioned like Frostgrave earlier. I think people play Frostgrave.
It's funny because people ask that, but I always adapt my D&D games to a gridless because I like to measure it out with. I just take, if a character has 30 feet speed, I just divide that by inches or whatever. So it's like, he can move, by every 25 or every 5 feet is an inch. So I just use that, and I use tape measure when I play D&D. So it's very easy to do that both ways. So
will backers get updates to the beta PDF as you develop the rules? That's a separate document. The rule book is actually in like design and layout right now. That kind of preview was only meant just as a preview. So we're not
the demos are not a beta. Just so you know, the demos are just a demo early version of the rules. They've already changed quite a bit since then, but there's going to be way more of it, obviously, in the final book. The PDF, we haven't decided about when the PDF will be sent to backers, like before printing, just to last minute sanity check, all that stuff. That's something we're going to talk about timeline wise, but we're going to be providing the PDF in its final form to backers, those who back the physical book. So,
will you be teasing the next or next if Myth and Goal is still coming Kickstarter today?
We'll be teasing today. Yes.
Question: are you giving up on the horror series line? So nothing set in stone.
Yeah,
but...
we don't like to give definites when we're not sure, but it's not high priority right now to do another miniatures line in the horror setting.
I definitely have ideas because I love horror, and my initial vision was having this sort of like kind of baseline classical horror, and then moving into like kind of more modern horror, and just doing it kind of like by eras almost. However, I think we didn't get as much demand as we were hoping for on the initial offering, which there's reasons for that, and that's fine. But it also just kind of affects our long-term planning. So it's not out of the question. It's just not as a high priority right now, just based on demand.
Yes, Sean, I absolutely did pre-order Stargrave, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh yeah, I did too. I forgot.
Will you please take ideas? Will you take ideas for Fantasy Series 3? I'd love lesser elementals, please. I've definitely heard that, Joseph. I have noted that down in my list, and that is something I want to do in Fantasy Series 3 as well. I actually wanted to do it in Series 2, but there were just so many ideas that I wanted to get out in there. It's hard to pick and choose, but small elementals are on my list. So, yes.
So, are you guys happy with the Kickstarter rate? It's been really,
Very
really good from my small corner of the world. I was personally hoping for that 12 million Frostgrave, but
Haven.
Frosthaven, yeah. We were talking about Frostgrave. So.
I would say I'm very happy with it. I think the only thing that would have been better is if Fantasy Series 1 was fully fulfilled. And
yeah,
people saw the quality, they would jump on it. There's some hesitant people, which is understandable. They might be new to us. They don't have other products to look at, but when they get their Fantasy Series 1, I'm pretty sure they're going to be wishing they backed this or hopping in the Pledge Manager
or be there for Fantasy Series 3.
Fantasy Series 3 should be fantastic.
Are the Demonkin Warriors actually used in an adventure, or is it just a bonus? They will be we can't spoil our published content, but yes, I'll spoil that. Yes, you'll use them.
Need Ratmen, Snake People. Yeah, we like those things. People have accused Bray and I of liking anthropomorphized creatures a lot, so Fantasy Series 3 needs more centaurs. We actually got the centaur sculpt in from the stretch goals I think yesterday, and it looks awesome. I would love to do more centaurs. Did you play Necromunda? I did play Necromunda. Any chance of some point of adding a base building aspect to Lasting Tales? Well, there's definitely like a wound table. There's definitely going to be like injuries and things like that. The base building thing would be a whole experience.
Yeah, that'd be a supplement where there'd be a campaign based around building up a base, and then there'd be rules in that supplement about how you can do this in your own campaigns or something like that. So similar to how they do that with the Pathfinder adventure paths, they'll have like rules for whatever that campaign adds, and you can use those yourself.
Another question about the horror series miniatures line. Nothing to announce at this time, but we'll continue selling horror series 1. We'll still offer that one.
Someone asked, I hope the first expansion of Lasting Tales is set in the dry regions. I love the I just love that Djinn. But yeah, we have I have plans for what it's called Zidane. It's XE''DANN, I believe, Zidane. It's like the kind of the drier region, but there's lots of cool stuff down there. So
we do monstrous race players, full orcs goblins. That's definitely possible. It's lower on the list of to-dos for player races, but that's definitely something we consider. I know people like to play with monsters. Someone just upped their pledge for the book. They weren't paying enough attention how the system worked. We sold you. All right,
sweet.
You can mark us down for that one, Scotty.
Days of good work.
Sorry, trying to catch up through all these.
Is it possible for you guys to add the desecrated pack from horror as an add-on, or do a gravestone pack like you did for the doors?
Just to be clear, the desecrated pack those are miniatures from Fantasy Series 1. So anybody who is backing that is already.
And the pack is just the tokens, right? The pack's the actual gameplay elements.
Yeah.
If you have
Will Lasting Tales have any large-scale fights that can use all 6 of my Fantasy Series 1-2 boxes? That Dr. Bandage, that's something I'm going to expect you to design for us. So give us some fan content there of a big old war, like a 4x6 battlefield of a big war. I'll play it.
Yeah, I'd love to do something. I mean, we'll see how it goes when we release, but I'd love to do kind of like a adventure spotlight and then maybe do like a fan adventure that was submitted. And we'll lay it out as a professional looking PDF and make it available for people to play. It'd be really cool. Somebody asked up here that if you decide not to pursue additional horror sets, would you possibly take ideas from them and adapt them into Lasting Tales? Yeah, like I mentioned before earlier in the stream, there's actually a whole region of Aetha, the world that Lasting Tales is set in. It's all like horror themed, kind of like Gothic, Transylvania, Castlevania style stuff. So there's totally a possibility of seeing a lot of that in Lasting Tales.
Can Fantasy Series 3 have less player characters and more monsters? It's going to be hard to find. I'm not going to be like a hardliner about that, but I want to say no. I feel like the collection of heroes, while not all of them are useful to everybody, is important because it's kind of like a one box for everybody type thing, where it's not everything's going to please everybody, but we wanted to have a big mix of everything. And again, just because these miniatures are designed to be heroes, they can be used for way more than that. They can be followers, they can be NPCs, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Evil like, PCs.
That's the beauty of like a skirmish game, is you can utilize miniatures and however you want. I've said this many times, but I use the even though we have a necromancer model now in the stretch goals, I'm still going to use my human male wizard as a necromancer because he looks like a cool necromancer. I just like the way he looks as a necromancer.
We will say that we haven't like, you know, like I said, this is not a hard line yet, but we also have been talking about doing our sets more themed toward what the adventure is going to be. So in those cases, yes, you would have more, you know, like NPCs or enemies and monsters, stuff like that.
Yeah, and if we do like a book that's like, oh, here's this goblin campaign where it features goblins a lot, we might do more goblins, just different poses, different characters, just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be great to do some thematic stuff and just do it, because like right now we're kind of like casting this wide net, and it's great because you get this great value, but even if we have to reel it back and do maybe smaller scale, but like, well, not less minis, but just kind of like more focused thematically. What is your favorite? Oh wait, did I pass that? Will you have an update on how Lasting Tales is connected between scenarios, the campaign?
We'll be doing more previews as the game moves along and gets closer to release. You'll definitely see more write-ups on our website and social media, just teasing the game. But it's still got to go through development, playtesting, all that stuff. That's what the summer is going to be devoted to, is just polishing the game off and making it as good as possible for you guys. So.
Yeah, and the actual published tale, it'll guide you through that. The narrative will guide you through, but it'll also be the parameters and how you can do that yourself in your own kind of like either pre-written campaigns to do yourself, or just randomly generated ones.
Favorite mini so far in Fantasy Series 2?
Halfling Cook.
Brady likes the cook. I actually really like the male elf cleric. Big surprise. I like the cleric, but I was going to use that human cleric from Fantasy Series 1 for our first campaign, but now I want to use the elf. I want to be an elf now. He looks pretty cool. Rat folk and beast folk in general.
11 minutes left.
Please. Yes, we definitely like the idea of beastkin races.
Does the world map? Did you get through the rat folk piece? Yeah. Does the world map show the nature of the different regions? There'll be like kind of like little descriptions. Those are kind of just hints about what's out there. Because like I said, I'd like the book to kind of just lay some groundwork, and you can use those nuggets however you want. But then also the game will just have supplements that kind of expand those areas. So we don't want to give it all out right now. We'll do it kind of kind of more of an exploratory look at the world from each release that Lasting Tales has.
Any tieflings, Goliaths, or more player races on the cards? I'm not sure if you mean in future lines, but if that's what you mean, then yes, there's definitely going to be different kinds of player races in the future. At least we hope. That's the goal.
It's more coffee.
Would you be having any other kinds of genies of different elements? That's definitely possible. I know people wanted like Ifrits and Dows. Dows? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah, that's definitely possible. 12 minutes to go. That looks like 11 minutes now.
A pregnant queen goblin with goblin babies scenario.
That's that could be interesting.
It could be very scary.
I don't know how I feel about killing goblin babies.
No, you're rescuing them from
From a life in a cave, or stealing goblin babies. That's not even better.
space series win. We've had a lot of internal discussions about how we're going to handle sci-fi. But yeah, that's something that's definitely being looked at. Would it be possible to pay a separate shipping charge to get Fantasy Series 1 or Horror earlier?
No, it's not going to be possible.
Yeah,
We're actually going to have to reprint a lot of those miniatures because the first print run of Fantasy Series 1 has mostly been spoken for, obviously, because of the large number of backers in that Kickstarter. So we definitely need to reprint it. It doesn't make sense financially to split that up into different boat deliveries. We can't make that work from a business perspective. So
I noticed there was a lot less of the translucent plastic in Fantasy Series 2. Did this happen naturally, or is the translucent plastic harder to mold? Ironically, that's like my favorite type of miniature. It played out that way, where we just planned. It was
just naturally. It happened to be where I wanted to make sure we had some in the core set, so we had the wraiths in there. But all the miniatures we were planning out just didn't really make sense to be translucent. And it is, it's more of a
consideration
cost to consider. So like if it doesn't make sense thematically to be translucent, there's no reason to go the extra effort to make it translucent. But for example, the genie, I mean, that made sense. I understand people wanted to paint like half of him, the top, and then the bottom have the smoke. That makes sense. We were happy to do that. So
somebody just recommended a map artist I want to look up real quick.
In future Kickstarters, will previous backers be able to buy individual minis? Like I wanted a second Cthulhu. That is not something we're considering at this point. Like I said before, the reason we're able to offer the value is because of the bundle. Just doing everything together. That's why people like back in the day when I collected those Pathfinder miniatures, Pathfinder battles, they were sold randomly because they had to make sure that people didn't just go buy the popular characters. They got to sell everything, and so the easiest way to sell everything is just package it all together and sell it for cheaper. So that's just the way we're able to offer the value at this point. Any chance of Alter Quest enemies showing up in the core book of Lasting Tales? I don't know about the core book, but it's not out of the question to have them show up in Lasting Tales. Like I like the idea of frog people in Lasting Tales. That's cool. The Raglanders too. They would be cool in Lasting Tales.
Well, now I'm emailing an artist real quick. So
Brady's on it. I feel like everyone wants sci-fi, but everyone wants a different take on sci-fi and won't like anyone else's. That is the challenge. We've discussed this before, where I love the idea of doing sci-fi, but if we did a line of sci-fi miniatures, it'd be very difficult to hit the mark and what everybody wants. I mean, even fantasy is very popular, but you can see in the comments of the Kickstarter, everybody has different ideas of what they want in their fantasy. And while they're a lot more accepting of fantasy because it's a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Established what fantasy is. There's still lots of tastes to go around of what people want. So it's hard to please everybody. Can we get champions and ranged variants of the bugbears and hobgoblins? I will note that as something that is wanted. I should have brought some water with me. Ooh. Is HS1 still in print, and what can... I can't... And do what Alter Quest... Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you mean shipping it early, but no, we can't ship Horror Series 1 early. Everything's going to be shipping together. First time backer. Thanks, Jason. Can you add HS1 minis in this campaign? They are. Horror Series 1 is an add-on in the campaign. It is in the add-on section, so scroll down to check it out. Love the thicker humans for Fantasy Series 1. Any hope of doing other classes in that kind of body shape? Yeah, I took that as someone requested that when we were planning Fantasy Series 1. I was taking ideas from people on Facebook, I think, and someone said they wanted larger sized body shapes, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Like I think a wizard makes sense being a little chunkier because he's not athletic. He's just casting spells.
It can be chunky and athletic though. I want a chunky rogue.
Honestly, the artwork was way chunkier, but the sculptor slimmed it on a tad. So
I'd like a bigger like rogue who's like more clever. Doesn't have to be sneaky, maybe just more.
Late to the stream, so maybe you already asked any updates on Myth and Goal. We will talk about what's next after the Kickstarter ends here in 5 minutes. We'll see what it ends at. Wrap up any other questions you might have, and then we'll talk about what's next.
Can we get a gnome paladin on a giant armadillo?
That's very specific.
Giant armadillo sounds good.
Will Fantasy Series 3 have heroic versions of monster races and generic hero race bad guys? I think we have enough hero bad guys. You could use all the heroes we already have for bad guys if you wanted. But heroic monsters if that's something people want. That's something we'll definitely consider.
Someone asked for a Western version of Lasting Trails. What's the Western game?
Yeah, we have all kinds of play on words for different themes, and I think Lasting Trails was definitely one that Mark.
Yeah, we all love westerns, so that's something that would be really fun to mess with.
Can you please make sure the stretch goal box fits a Kalax? I can't guarantee that.
I think it can. Yeah, where's the? Yeah, it would. I got a Kalax now.
The stretch goal box,
dude. My Solomon Kane fit in my.
No, but I'm pretty sure the stretch goal box
it's too wide.
It's too wide.
I'll test. I'll check that.
It's wider than the core box.
It's Kalax is wider than I was expecting. So.
But I will say that these boxes, they're nice, but they're not meant for storage. They're meant for shipping the miniatures to you. So I keep my miniatures.
Yeah, ironically, I just installed some glass shelves in my Kalax shelf to.
Do you need rulebook editing, playtesting for Lasting Tales? If you're interested in playtesting or editing, you can submit a ticket on the help desk on Blacklist website, and it'll get directed to me probably, because I usually handle playtesters and things like that. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out and let us know.
3 minutes. Get them in. Get the pledges in.
Why Kickstarter and not GameFound? We haven't used GameFound yet. Definitely, looked into it and interested in it, but we're familiar with Kickstarter, so we're just sticking with what we knew and where our Fantasy Series 1 backers were. We had a lot of people that backed Fantasy Series 1 that were interested in Fantasy Series 2, so we just kind of went with what we knew, but we're definitely open to considering GameFound in the future. Very excited for FS1. Any chance for magnet slots in the bases? Probably not. It's just so easy to use the same bases we've already been doing. Keeps things nice and simple. Are you guys backing like Marvel United? I think Marvel United is probably one of the best board games I've ever played. I love it. I am backing it. It's a fantastic board game.
I am backing it. I probably shouldn't because I just bought a house.
We live right on the street from each other, but we still both back the same games.
Well, you told me not to because you were backing it. Then you went and backed the stuff that I already had. So I was like, well, I better back it too. So
too much.
I got a copy.
Too much content, man.
We ever do a Jurassic themed Kickstarter? I never say never, but no, we never will. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I can't imagine we would do it like a dinosaur themed something.
I liked Dino Riders as a kid. Those toys. What are we at now?
But I don't know if it'd be that specific though. Like we might do like a dinosaur miniature or two.
1,385,000. That's going up there. I don't think we can make it past 14.
Yeah, we had internal predictions, and my prediction was 2 million, so I failed.
Brady failed.
I always just throw out a number. I never know what to. Kickstarter is so weird. You never know what to expect. It could be.
So I'm not sure if Scotty's going to be mad at me, but I'm going to spoil this. Someone asked what was the Horror Series 1 sculpt that got shifted to Fantasy Series 2. It was the Lesser Demon. That was actually going to be part of a faction in Dire Alliance Horror. But since we didn't reach it, I was like, I want a demon, a little demon guy. In
1 minute
fantasy. How long
it doesn't actually count down on the app. Usually it counts down on the app. 100 seconds.
Jurassic Trails.
Justin's
1 minute. Yes, and if you stick around after the Kickstarter ends, we're gonna we'll wrap a couple more things up, and we'll also talk a little tease about what's next for Blacklist, and Kickstarter, obviously.
Both the stretch goal box for Fantasy Series 1 and the Kalax shelf is exactly 336 millimeters. So if you're a bit rough, it might fit. I'm gonna go try that now because I could have sworn looking at it, I was just over there installing one at my house and it looked huge. I had a bunch of big games in there. That Company of Heroes game is enormous.
50 seconds.
Campfires and fallen hero minis for there's something like we might eventually do like more of like a lasting tales like objective pack or something that would have stuff like that where you have more features. It's just kind of more accessories, but I don't know, we have to see the demand for it. We would love to just do accessories for lasting tales, obviously.
Mine says 3 hours to go. No, it's not 3 hours.
If you do jungle themed Lasting Tales expansion, dinosaurs definitely would fit. Yeah, I would definitely have dinosaurs on Lost Real, that's for sure.
10 seconds?
Does it count down to seconds?
I don't know. Just
0 seconds. It's over. It's done.
Is it over?
That's what mine says.
0 seconds.
Done. All right. So the final number is $1,387,550.49. That's impressive.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much
Great support.
For backing.
Thank you.
We couldn't do it without you guys.
Obviously.
And we can't wait to get all these miniatures done, get Lasting Tales all polished up and ready to go and sent out to you. But that we're going to be busy working on Lasting Tales for, I don't know, the next several months. We've also been working on, okay, I think it reconnected. Okay. So, yes.
I don't see disconnects.
Well, I think you're...
Oh, no, yeah. It just kind of jumped a bit. But
sorry, we got a little disconnected there, but I think we're back to normal. So it says I've been live for 15 seconds, so that's hopefully we're still there.
It's still there for me.
All right.
Yeah, it's still going.
Okay, so I touched on what's coming next earlier in the video about what to expect in the Kickstarter. There'll be an update. Scotty will go over all the details about what to expect, but we will be updating the Kickstarter once a month.
Dr. Bandage wants a teaser.
I got a teaser coming up for you. But yeah, watch for the update to see what's next. So while working on Lasting Tales, getting all the sculpts ready, moving this project along, keeping Mark busy writing, we also have something else coming up later this summer on Kickstarter that we're going to be launching as our next project. And we've announced this before, but we had something cool to show you. I'm just going to go ahead and show you right now, right here. So this is Myth and Goal, the official logo, a game of fantasy football for 1 to 2 players by James Hewitt and Sophie Williams. This is something I am very excited about. Those of you who, are fans of real fantasy football, like Blood Bowl, things like that.
That's just the thing. Real fantasy football.
A game of real fantasy football.
That's the tagline.
Now, we have more things to show about this game in the very near future, but we wanted to give our backers here the first peek at the official logo. And yes, the intent is to have solo play as an option in this game. So it's going to be a competitive game, 1v1, with a mode where you can AI automate the opposing team. So that is what we have James and Sophie working on. They've been working on that for the last, 6 months, maybe.
Actually,
5 months.
I think it was the fall last year, late fall.
So that this is again something I'm really excited about. We have the artist working on this game. He did the logo, Kareem. I hope I pronounced the name right, but it's Kareem Bayet, and his art is fantastic. I cannot wait to show you guys the cover art. We should be getting that from him soon, and we will be teasing that on our website, on social media. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you do social media, or just go to our website, sign up for the newsletter. You'll see the official announcement where we reveal the cover art and more details about the game. But it is a fantasy football game where they're gonna have 4 teams in the core box, and we have lots of things planned for stretch goals, lots of different teams for stretch goals. But
yes, it is a board game. Yeah.
Yes, it is a board game. Before we discussed potentially making this a game with standees and then a separate line of miniatures. We decided to keep it simple. This is going to be a board game with miniatures, a big box board game. Things we've done before in the past, things we know how to do. Don't want to complicate. Our customers aren't get confused about what they're getting. This is just going to be a really cool premium board game.
Yeah, after playing it, we were just like, let's make this a board game. Like it feels like it needs to be just a big box game. It's really cool.
Yes. So that is the what is coming next from Blacklist Games, like, immediately next.
And
next project.
A look ahead. We won't get into specifics, obviously, because we want to focus on the Lasting Tales, Myth and Goal. But afterwards, following that, maybe later this year, it'll be another Sadler Brothers game for a change.
Ray and I have been working on a concept for a new game that we've been wanting to do for a while now, and we're not ready to give details just yet about it. But people who like games we've designed before will probably love it. Will probably be interested in it for sure, and we can't wait to give you more information about it. But
yeah, it'll be our first. I think it'll be our first Blacklist. Well, yeah, our first Blacklist non-MDS game, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's going to have MDS elements.
If you like MDS, if you like MDS, you'll like it. But it's specifically not going to be just like everything's deck based. It's going to be a little more flexible than that. So it's taking the methodology we have behind MDS, but not just limiting everything to decks. But you'll have card play, you'll have dice, you'll have things you love. So
yeah, cool. So yes, that was the reveal. We wanted to tease you first, give you guys a first view of it. We have so much more to share with it, and we can't wait to do so. But yeah, we thank you so much for hanging out with us and celebrating this Kickstarter with us. If you have any other last minute questions, feel free to ask. But Scotty will be back on the Kickstarter with an update to give you information on what's coming next. Just a quick recap: we'll do one update a month outside of normal things like the Pledge Manager launching, things like that. Give you development updates, show you sculpt progress, tell you how the game's doing, and all that stuff. As we lead up to fulfillment, which is what everybody wants, obviously. So, thanks again so much for backing Fantasy, like Lasting Tales and Fantasy Series 2. You have shown us your interest, and we have definitely realized that we should plan for the future of Fantasy Series 3 and more going forward. And thanks for all your ideas. We listen. I take notes. We see what you want, and we will do our best to give it to you. So, yes. Thank you again. I think we got all the questions. But yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Thank you, everybody.
We will be back soon with another. We will our next live stream will probably be a playthrough of the final copy of Hour of Need, and we'll give updates about that. But we'll also probably talk more about Myth and Goal and everything else going forward. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And again, thank you so much.
See you, everyone.
I'm having...
Sorry, that was Siri.